Hi, right, we're going to do a series of videos, I think, on this, what I assumed was a missing menu for the calibration, and I came across it by accident yesterday when I was reading the C-Thinking user manual. All the manuals I've uploaded seem to have slight variations of the instructions for this BSL app, and by going through all of the manuals you're actually getting somewhere finally. So I've gone through all of these drop down menus looking for this calibration menu, and it just isn't there, but as I say, I came across it in the user manual that I looked at, and you basically press F3. So there we are, there's the F3 configuration menu. You'll see that this one is the area that we can work with, and we've got offsets. This is where you set the use of the calibration file that I created the other day, that c.core file. So we're going to be trying that. We have some figures here already set up, so whether they're being used, oh no, they must be being used, I should imagine. So we're going to be looking at this. Galvanic center is where the machine goes at the end of every job. Next tab is laser control. Now it's set to fiber, and got a maximum pulse width modulation signal of 200 kilohertz, and the minimum is 20 kilohertz. We've got a power mapping button here, so you can increase the percentage. Whether this actually works or not with this laser, I don't know. It's something else we're going to be trying. So that's that. I don't know what these are. We've got fiber, types of fiber. It's obviously set to that one. I have no idea what this is other than a DPSS laser. It's not a fiber laser. Okay, ports, well, they are all there, but all on null, which I assume means that they are not actually doing anything. So yeah, we'll have to investigate that further. On the other, we seem to be able to set a mark delay and an end mark delay. We've got a maximum speed there of 10,000 millimeters a second and a minimum speed of just 1 millimeter per second. I don't know what the mark dialog box is, but you can tick that and show it. I think more interestingly, on this first video we're going to look at this red tab. Now we have the red light currently set to a graphic outline, and that is going to put a red box around whatever you're about to mark. So if we hit this, I'm just going to turn that off, it wasn't selected originally. Just going to hit this red preview, and it basically gives us, actually that's not what it gives us normally, hang on, I want to show it to you as default. Okay, so that's what it's set to by default, the graphic circumscribed rectangle, and you'll all be very familiar with that. It's just putting a rectangle around the text that I actually want to mark. Which is okay, but you can hit stop and you can change that to the graphic outline, and this may be very useful for you. The camera is not picking this up the same as my eyes are. For me, I've got a on and off flashing ghdrepair.co.uk. I think the camera's picking this up because of the frame rate as part of the text moving across like that. And what you can do is you can also adjust the meters per second Now for my eyes, I think 2000 on this particular one. You probably again won't see this like I'm seeing it. What I'm seeing is it's almost flowing from left to right, but if I concentrate on one part, I can see the GHD flashing on and off. So I can see exactly where that is. And then if I concentrate on the repair bit, for me that is just flashing on and off. And if I move my eyes to the end, the co.uk is just flashing on and off. That is not probably what you're seeing on the camera. So again, you can change that speed to suit your eyes and perhaps exactly what you're marking. So again, now I've got a pretty solid but flashing GHD repair.co.uk. That is not what you're seeing through the camera. Again, frame rates are cocking this up completely. But that shows me exactly the text that's going to come out. I can see that it's not filled, so that might be very useful in certain circumstances. I'm sorry you can't see this correctly. If I zoom in, maybe onto one bit, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Probably not. I don't know whether you could tell, but that was just an unfilled text. Anyway, so that's that. Let's try, well, let's just put it back to 5,000. Again, that's quite smooth, and I'm thinking that the lower the speed, the less strain we're putting on the galvo mechanism. What can we drop this down to? Let's try 100, see what that does. Okay, so of no use, but it's actually drawing out all of the letters one after the other. So there are some options for you there. So let's just whack that back to the default of 7,000, and we're just going to go back to the circumscribed rectangle. And obviously that is giving us what everybody is used to. Now we've got an offset figure here, so I've taken photos of every one of these tabs so I know what the figures are, but we're just going to change the X offset because if I cover up the main laser light, and that is the focusing pointer, you'll see it's just very slightly out. Now I don't fancy trying to move this very much and adjusting it because it's going to go hideously wrong. So I would say the main laser beam is just slightly to the right of where the pointer is. Now, if that's the case, let me just make sure I've got this written down. I've got it photographed, but 0.0700 is the current X offset, and I think it is a little bit to the right. So if I change that to 0 offset and do OK, all that, move that. Just going to have another look at this with the black. I'm going to put the camera down for a second because I just can't tell whether that's made any difference on that. See if we can balance that there. No, I would still say the laser beam is to the right. What we're going to do is just click on OK, and I'm just going to shut the program down and restart it. Some of these operations do need a restart of the software. So we're going to run it again and see if anything changes. Yeah, it has. The main laser mark now is just a little bit to the left on the it's on the x-axis and it's minus a tiny amount. So if we bring that back in, yeah, the main laser is just slightly off to the minus, and we're just going to bring up that F3 menu and go back to red, and it has changed it. So it was on 0700, I'm going to put it on 0350 and click OK. We'll see if that moves. Let's do a F3, and we're just going to go back to the red tab. I'm going to do a red preview. There is nothing we can do, so just going to need to bring up text we had again. I'm just loading the GHD graphics. I'm going to do 5mm height, save that, and we're going to do red. And then we're going to hit stop. And we've got the same old problem where it's not going back correctly. Or have I really messed this up? Oh no, I had it messed up, didn't I? An idiot. That's close. But it's still... The main laser is just a little bit to the left on the x-axis again. So I'm going to reboot the program just in case that makes a difference. In fact, I'll turn the laser off as well, see what that does. No, not quite right. I'm running the program again. I'm going to load in my logo. That's done. I'm going to increase the text size to 4 this time. Hit application. We're going to hit F3. We're going to go to the red tab. And this time we're going to change the mark to 0.060 and hit OK. Just a tiny bit out. It looks like the original setting was pretty close, but I don't know why it was not right. So let's go back to 0.80, I think we'll try this time. I have to question whether that's actually doing anything at all. Just going to change the offset to 1mm, see if that makes any difference. It's pretty close. Not getting the massive difference that I thought. And of course it might not actually be applying to this. The offset might just be, I'll tell you what it is, it's not probably the 0 point, is it? I bet it's the offset of the actual rectangle it might be producing. And that's interesting. So let's just tape that down so it doesn't move. Let's put it back to where it was. So let's just mark the offset or the line there, so I can see it. I don't know whether you'll be able to see that. And then we'll press stop, and then we'll go back to F3, red, and I'm going to do an offset on the X of 1.7 or 1.07. I'm going to fire that again. Ah, there you go. That's what the offset does. In case this isn't firing exactly straight down, you can. I've now offset it by that 1.07 to the right. So the actual scanned image is going to be a little bit further to the right than it was. So that would be useful if everything isn't quite parallel, perhaps. So if this is shooting straight down but it's not quite centered, that's what that is doing. If I can find a double tape measure. So you can see that centered dot. If I now go right to the end, and we've got a given size, which is 32 points. Okay, so I'm just going to make the size of this 30, just so we've got a nice simple. Right, so that's adjusted the text. That is now 30 wide. So from that centre dot, which is coming from the other one, you'd obviously want that to be 15. And it's obviously better where it was, which is why that offset had been set as it was. So I'm going to go F3, red. We're going to change the offset back to 0.0700 and hit OK. Now we're going to do the red F1 again. Now this time, I really hope you can see this on the camera. This time the end of the box has been moved substantially back to where it was. So if we try and line this up now, we should be getting exactly 15 mil. It's so hard to see this infrared dot. So I reckon it's a fraction out. I think it's 15.2. Let's try again. So actually, let me go to the other end and just check that. It's also moving as the paper moves. Yeah, it's pretty close. I don't think it would matter too much. But if there is an issue and it's not completely square, you can obviously change that offset. You can move it left and right and up and down with the plus and minus offset figures. So let's just go back to the screen. So we're going to stop that and F3 again. So pretty much you can choose the rectangle, red light rectangle, or you can let it scan out the individual letters or graphic. The default speed is 7000. That is the standard default offsets. size ratio, I am guessing that will adjust if you've got a specific size and that is not quite doing it. Then you can probably just adjust it minutely here. In fact, if I write those down, we can try that. So it's 1.0110 is the X ratio. Let's go and just change that to 1.1. So that should be quite a significant overscanning on the X ratio now. I've got a preview. Let's go back to there. So we already know that this should be 30 millimeters. So let's just go back and see what we actually have now. So now we've got 33. So that size ratio X and Y is absolutely crucial to getting the correct size box. I've literally got 32.71, I don't know whether you can see that or not. So if we stop that, and I'll go back to that size ratio, and we're going to put it to 1.010, and we're going to do a preview at that. Now let's try it again. So we're now getting 30.22. So you could argue, and it's just so hard to see, probably the best thing to do here is scan it out onto, actually physically mark it on this paper, and then adjust from there. Look, I think that's about as accurate as I can mark this, and that's bang on. So the other measurement is 3.707. See if we can just measure that. Yeah, I've got 3.84. But it is so hard to measure that. So there could be a little adjustment required in the Y direction. But again, I would definitely probably just burn the paper and try and measure it. It's, this red is a real problem to be aligning onto. So there you go. That is that the last menu. So outline is following and printing out or marking the graphics for you, or the letters, individually. That is the normal. Christ, I forgot which is which. Let's try again. Right, so if you want a text, it's graphic outline. If you want a rectangle, it's rectangle, obviously. Right, so you can adjust the speed to suit your eyes. You can adjust the offset and the size ratio. That's interesting. I wonder why you would need to change offset and the size ratio. Yes, no, of course you would, because you might have the correct size but it's not quite in the right position. So yeah, so there you go. That is what is on that red, and yes, you can adjust it all, and it does definitely work. So that is the red tab, and I think we'll stop and then move on to the others. Alright, so just adding this one on to the end of that first video on the red tab. So I just thought I might as well mark that and then just measure it. It's so much easier. The actual X measurement is bang on. It's 30.07 as best as I can measure. The one that is out is the 3.707 height of this. it is a little on the low side, so it may well have to adjust that figure, the Y figure on the red tab. I'm just making a follow-up video just to make absolutely sure what I have said is correct. So I'm using the dimensions and pattern that I've mentioned in the video that currently is unlisted on YouTube. But before I put it live, I'm just double checking everything that I've said. So we've got a rectangle of a known measurement, and we've got two capital H's with some dashes in between them, and I know exactly what they should measure as well. So I'm just going to burn this, and then we're going to come back and check the measurements against what we have designed on screen. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. So what we have is a rectangle burnt in. We've got two capital H's and a series of dashes in between the two H's, and this was unfilled text. Now the size of the rectangle should be 40 by 10. So we're just going to grab the calipers and I would say that is absolutely spot on, as good as I can measure. 39.95. Now let's check the other way, which I was a bit concerned about earlier. That was probably a little bit out, but let's have a look. Well, 10 point, spot on. It's much easier when you've got a line actually burnt in there. Now the capital H's, the distance there should be 16x and 4y. So let's just measure and just see how zeroed this is. It's close enough. So 16. Let's have a little look. So I've got 16.22. That should be 4. Yep, 4. Yep, happy with that. Let's just go back and double check this. So hard. Probably should have done something much bigger. Of course, you've got the quality of these calipers as well to consider. Nearly cheapies. About there, 15.99. So actually I think we are good to go. Now the next thing I want to know is whether we've got equal distance between the first part of the H and the end of the rectangle. I think we're looking at 12.25, and this side .2, so very, very close indeed. Now what I wanted to just double check was what happens when we increase the size ratio. I want to see whether it's actually changing the dimensions on here. The reason I questioned myself from the last video is this is for the red targeting system. So if you're adjusting that, why would the actual text and box be bigger? Because you're adjusting that. So let's just do a red preview again. Yeah, it's exactly over the previous stuff. Just double checking. Yeah. Now I'm just going to increase the size ratio from 1.0110 to 1.1, and this is the X dimension, so we're going to do a preview now. Yeah, and that has increased the ratio either side, so we've got a bigger rectangle, and we also have bigger text. It's definitely had a difference, made a difference there. So I think the previous video I am correct in what I'm assuming. It just seemed odd that the red pointer would be changing the size of the text. You would think that would be perhaps independent, or is that correct? If I now fire the laser, is it going to mark in the bigger position, or is that laser line too wide now? Well, I think that's going to be the answer. If we now laser this, we'll know for sure. If that laser is straight over the top of the original design, we'll know that what we're adjusting here purely is this red outline. That's what we need to do. Let me fire this now. Aha! Right, there we go. So what I'm saying is now correct. What we're adjusting here is the actual outline. It is not making any difference to where it fires. If I now go back to the red mark is too big and the text is too big. That is not lining up with the lasered image. So that's perfect. Now we know for sure what is what. So we can go back to F3 and we can just change that size ratio from what I had it on back to 1.0110. And if we do a preview now, yep, that is smack bang over the top of the lasered image. So yeah, okay, well that's perfect. This is clearly very well set up. No change is required there, but that's actually what it does. It's independent of the burning pattern. It is, but it's got to be obviously overlapping it perfectly. So burner pattern, and check that the red F1 is exactly over the top. If it isn't, this is the menu to adjust it in. So yeah, hopefully that's settled that one.